Um, all right. Hi, everyone. Um, so, um, yeah, as noted, the class today is on the principle of two weaknesses. And the first game I wanted to show you is game between Rosalimo and Wood. Show the full game, actually. And there are a couple of possible stopping points. Okay, so in this position, what do you think White should do in this position? Kind of a little bit of a warm up. Yeah, position on screen. Yeah, to those of you who are just joining, principle of two weaknesses. Yeah, we're trying to figure out the best plan here. Yeah, bishop a4, right? Because that's why White played bishop c2, right? With the idea of going bishop a4. Right? That's the whole point. Because yeah, the bishop on d3 kind of is a pretty bad bishop, right? So we want to try to trade it off. Like moves like knight f5, they don't really do much because I can take with bishop, and now it's going to be hard to get rid of this blockader, right? This will be kind of drawish. So it's much better to trade off the bishop and keep that knight for better purposes later on. And yeah, there's a lot of maneuvering. White brought the knight there. It's probably closer to a fortress if Black defends very passively. But um, at some point, um, Black broke with a4 for some reason. And now White got some winning chances with the rook on the c file. And now White brought the king all the way back to the queen side. And what would you do for White here? Okay, most people gotten it. Yeah. So the right idea is f4, right? Creating a alone, right? You're gonna, in order to, win, you have to break through on the other side, right? And after this, queen f6, and after this one, g5, queen goes to h3, and then goes 3-6, right? And then White is white is winning in this situation. So black played rook a7, queen h3, takes, rook c1, and eventually white broke through with a very nice combination in the end, right? Takes the rook e6. But of course, white's probably winning in many ways as well. So yeah, breaking through on the other side of the board. Okay, now that we started with a fairly easy one, let's see actually an interesting game I had against the grandmaster Benjamin Gladura in the last round of the US Open in 2021, the tournament that I won. I started the tournament 8 out of 8, and in this game, all I need is a draw to win the tournament. And I played pretty well to equalize in this game. Yeah, f5 is pretty important. Otherwise, he's going to go here, 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 control the f5 square. So f5 is quite important. f6, king f7, knight b3, b6, knight c1, c5, challenging the pawn on t4. Takes. Well, yeah, it wasn't like World Open strong, right? The first 3 games I played like against 1700, then 2000, then 2150 USCF, and then 22. So like my round 4 opponent would probably be weaker than, or maybe same level as like normally you would have. So basically, it was strong, but it wasn't like first 3-4 rounds. You're usually gonna win all the games. Although I almost lost round 3 in that tournament. I actually got some huge luck. Like I had 2 lost positions, actually round 3 and round 6, and I won both of them, right? Like it doesn't happen every day, right? So this was the time that I really had a chance to go 9 on 9, as you'll see, right? I had a chance for a historic result. Unfortunately, I did not manage to do that because I did not find the winning plan in the endgame. And in this position, my opponent offered me a draw. And since a draw was clinching me clear first, like I did think for a little bit here, but I ended up, accepting it after like 7 minutes because I just did not see a clearly winning plan. I thought I'm better a little bit, but I did not realize that I could be winning here. But actually, black has a nice winning plan. So I'll give you guys a few minutes and let's try to see if we can find it. By the way, I got a notification that my very good Santosh Ayapan, yes, very good. By the way, I got some notification that my internet was not stable or that I'm laggy. So if that persists, then I'm have to turn off my video at some point. It's laggy. Okay, then I'm just gonna turn off my video. I don't know what's going on today with my internet, but okay. If I get another notification about internet, then I'm just gonna turn off my video. What to do? Okay, looks like people are getting it. H5, H4. I suspect, yeah, either you guys are very strong, which I think you guys are, but I might have shown it before at some point. I don't remember. But yes, it's H5, H4. Yeah, trying to create a second weakness. Try to undermine this pawn on G3. I mean, it was not obvious to me, actually. I did not see it at all as H5, H4. I was basically calculating this. But here I thought white is defending. Okay. Gonna turn off my video. Hopefully this is better now. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean there's also an idea of like c4. Trying to make a passed pawn like this. And let's say k5. But how should white defend in this position. I still have lag. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm sorry about that, right? I mean, yeah, the internet unfortunately is not something I can fully control, right? So we're just gonna have to do the best we can under the circumstances, but what to do? Yeah, like this one runs into knight a6 check, and this, right? That is the problem. So that's why this doesn't quite work. I saw that. Also, d4 could even go c4, right? It's going to be hard to create a second weakness here. But yeah, the h5 plan was winning. And then e4, because if takes, then it's this move. And if knight takes d5, h3, this idea. So yeah, this would have been proud. This would have won me the game, but I did not find it. Okay, let's take a look at the next example. So I took the draw. All right, white to move. How do you proceed here? -4, I think it was that position. -3, -4. So very surprising. Okay, white to move. Yeah, I won the tournament. I got clear first. That's why I was like, I did not want to take risk, but yeah, getting a historic result would have been really nice. 9 out of 9. Make sure you give not just first move, but the whole variation. Okay, yeah, very good. Yeah, so this is a very simple example of principle of two weaknesses, right? Bishop takes f6, g takes f6, and now rook d1. Yeah, and then basically you create two sets of passed pawns, right? And then you go b5, takes c5, and so on and so forth. But having said that, if you start with this is not so accurate because takes. Yeah, there's rook d8. Yeah, Kasparov game. Yes, Kasparov game. Yeah. So it's very important to specifically start rook d1 to really force everything off. Have you seen it from me or someone else? All right. So here's another example. Black to play. Ah, okay, I see. Yeah, so that the last one was kind of a famous problem. Okay, that's fine. I mean, at least the next few ones you will definitely have never seen before because those are from my games that I played very recently, which I definitely haven't shown before. So at least, yeah, there's going to be definitely some new things. So anyway, black to play. Yeah, so bishop f3 is correct here. King takes, and now the easiest is rook d2, right? To try to go rook a2, rook b2, and so on and so forth. Right after here, takes king e4, and principle of two weaknesses, right? Our king is more active, and we're gonna get a passed pawn, right? So it's simplification. And if rook takes, then just rook d2, rook a2. It's kind of crushing. So everything else was not so clear, right? Because then they can go knight d4, and everything else is not going to be all that clear. Maybe still better for black, but not that clear. All right, now we're going to move on to something more interesting, my games. So I played a tournament very recently. This is white against the player about 2180 USCF. So, actually, if he beats me, he breaks master in this game, and he wins the tournament. So a lot on stake here. And I win the tournament also with the win. So it's pretty important. I'm white. I played this line in the Catalan. I got some advantage. I'm going to keep it confidential. His name, bishop b7, bishop f4, rook c8, e4. Yeah, he didn't play the line the most precisely. c5, d takes. Yeah, if rook takes, we have queen a3, which is strong for white. And after queen takes, takes, how should white continue here? c8. Okay, this is the critical moment. Yeah, I apologize for my internet. I mean, there's nothing I can do about the internet. It's too much of a hassle to leave and then rejoin again. That's just too much. So you're just gonna have to, as long as I don't wait, what? I'm not saying anything? I am saying something. Wait, guys, can you hear me talking? Okay, good. Well, I didn't say anything in the last 5 seconds, so I gave you guys a puzzle. So okay, a lot of people are saying knight b5. So let's look at knight b5. Knight b5. So what's the idea after, let's say, if bishop e4, you have knight d6. Right? Bishop e4, we have knight d6. If rook d8, we still maybe have knight d6. What about bishop c6? And rook, I think bishop c6 or rook d8 is not that bad for black. So knight b5 is interesting, but it's not so scary. In fact, I think the knight on c3 is pretty well placed, right? It's kind of well guarded. So bishop e3, let's take a look at bishop e3. Bishop e3, I was thinking like rook e8. Maybe trying to go rook d3 in some cases. Yeah, bishop b6. Let's say b6. And still not so the king will come in here and f3, let's say f8, king e7. I think black's probably doing okay here. So you could check the engine. It's like close to equal, yeah. The best line white has like almost +1. So it is rook d2 is the move I played. Now it is a4. Now I originally thought a4. Yes, if a5, then there's bishop e3. just hitting the knight and then trying to go f3, king f2, and so on and so forth, right? So, but I thought bishop 6, a5, knight d7. And I wasn't sure what to do after knight d7. I wasn't sure what to do after knight d7. But in this position, white has a pretty strong idea here. How should white continue here? So we have to understand what black wants here, right? He wants to knight c5, knight d3, knight b3, stuff like that, right? So rook d6 coming in with the knight, which is a little bit annoying, which is why we play here. Yeah, then f3, king f2, king e3, and now white has domination. It's actually very hard for black to untangle here. Yeah, the bishop d6 move I did not see in that line. That's why I did not play a4. Had I seen it, I would have played it. And because here white has a total domination. If black plays f5, takes, knight d5, and then knight e7, and if bishop takes, rook b5, right? Like white has very strong bishop versus the knight. Knight is restricted. The black king is a bit weak. Pawns are a bit weak, right? So this would have been really nice, this line. But yeah, I played rook d2 and f3, and this was just not as good. Because, yeah, then knight a4 came, right? And then after knight a4, knight takes c3. He's exchanging my knights, which is a bit annoying. Takes. And now, if he just plays e5, f6, king f7, this is probably okay for black. I mean, white has a slight nominal advantage, but it's very close to a draw. But he didn't play the optimal way. And around here, he really started to misplay it. He played f5. Like, on one hand, it activates his bishop, but his bishop was already kind of okay. It was a good defensive piece. But the real problem is he made my bishop more active, and he created himself a lot of weaknesses. And remember, guys, when it's like principle of two weaknesses, when you create more than one weakness, that becomes a problem. And he basically put a lot of pawns on the light squares, which means that he completely abandoned the dark squares, right? And now I'm just going king e3, king f4, king g5, and basically winning here. Yeah, and I'm winning to such an extent. Like, if here rook b7, rook g7, I'm winning so much that he basically decided to play rook takes d4 and king d5, just desperately try to create counterplay. But I actually foreseen that, and I decided I saw I could just go king e3, and it's just winning because c3 rook takes, and then rook c5 if king c4. Whereas if rook e8, king d2, rook e6, rook b6, and he resigned. So nice game I won, thanks to a principle of two weaknesses. Okay. The next one is from the same tournament, round one. And this one I played against a player with the last name Nakamura, but not related to Hikaru, of course. This was an older gentleman. I got like a very good version of the Stonewall on the white side. H3 to stop G5, of course. Knight e5. Now I played c5, trying to go before b5. So knight f7. And now, of course, I'm going before b5. Why? I'm creating a second weakness on the queen side, right? I already have space. I already have this square. He already has a bad bishop. But in order to win the game, I have to create another weakness. Takes, bishop back, b5, takes, queen a4, queen d7. Now, in this position, for some time, I was thinking maybe I can play knight b5. Who can tell us why knight b5 does not work here? Yeah, the problem is I can just take, right? You have to always, when opponent plays a move like this, you have to always, the first thing you should ask yourself is, can I somehow get away with taking, right? You think you can't, but actually you could, because after this, there's simply bishop d7, right? And then black is fine. So yeah, what I did instead is I played f3, kind of semi-waiting move, maybe thinking about playing e4. And the idea is that if bishop d8, now I can actually go knight b5. Right now this works because the queen does not have an escape square on d8. And now I'm simply penetrating. And here he resigned because c6 pawn is very weak, queen c8 is coming, and there's really no way to defend this. And he was also running very low on the clock at this point, right? So he just resigned. So very nice illustration on how to play with a space advantage on that domination. Another game I want to show you is a game I played with white against Alexander Kalstein. This was from like earlier this year. We're going to skip through the early part. Rook e5, bishop d5, rook g5, rook c6, b3, rook d8, rook e1. Okay, critical moment here for black. How would you try to defend this position? You're down a pawn, but obviously the d6 pawn is going to be quite weak. So yeah, anyway, how should we continue? Let me try to put on the video again and see if that will make my internet worse. Hopefully it does not, but if it does, then I'll get rid of the video again. Yeah, so the correct idea is f6, then e5, and let's say f4. What then? Yeah, then e4, right? Because if we play here, there's still rook g5. So e4, takes, takes. And here you have lots of counterplay in this position. Black is doing fine here. Why not bishop f3 before e4? Well, then it will not be easy to get rid of the knight, right? That's the problem. Then that knight supports the pawn. It's very annoying knight. If you play bishop takes e4, I think the problem might be, maybe f5 and rook d4. Maybe there's also another move. I'm not so sure. Probably f5. But yes, e4 is sufficient, followed by this. But what he played wasn't as good. He played b6, guard the pawn on a5, and I guess he wanted to take on c4, then play rook d6, play like this. But this is what I was counting on, and here I found a way to get an advantage. So how should white do it? D7. What if I play rook takes d7, knight takes 95, f6? That's the problem, yeah. Rook takes here, d7. I think king f8, I guess. That probably won't work. If h4, then probably takes e5. So the right answer is, maybe rook d5. Yeah, rook d5 does not work for many reasons. So the right idea is rook g4. Takes. Now, I did give back the pawn. However, once again, we have the good old principle of two weaknesses, right? Because we have b6 is weak, d4 is weak, right? Yes, d4 pawn is space, right? But space becomes a liability when pieces get traded off, right? Like black might be able to play e5, f6, but still white can undermine with f4. Something will become quite weak there, right? So that's the thing. This position is actually lost for black. I will prove to you with the engine. Yeah, it's like plus 1 point something. Yeah, principle of two weaknesses, that's like a real serious thing, right? Like because of those weaknesses, black is confined to very big passivity, and then white will go f4, king f2, king f3. And especially he was in time pressure. So I knew like he's pretty much a goner in a position like this, even if it's not objectively winning, which, I thought I'm a minimum much better, but maybe even winning. But even if it's like plus over equals, I still thought it's like very much a nightmare to play. So I was very happy to see this on the board. I didn't even play the best move. I played rook g5, but it was still good enough for an advantage. And I did win the game. This was actually my first win in that tournament after five draws. Yeah, he played g5. I played g4. And he played rook c5. I played rook e5. Trades, and he played gf. Okay, now we have a critical moment. Well, it's not as crazy the higher level you go up, right? Like the higher you go, the more likely draw will happen. Anyway, so it's white to play. How should white continue? Should we play gf or king takes f4? That's like the question. Which of these is winning? King takes f4 or gf? It's definitely one of those. But one of those is winning, the other one's actually not winning. So the difference actually very big. And you need to try to back it up with calculation. So IZ says I'm laggy. Is everyone else saying I'm laggy also? Okay, good. Okay, so I'll give you guys 2 minutes. Let's try to figure out GF or King F4. The person who gives the best variation, I will call on you to explain. One more minute. I see all your answers, but I won't comment just yet on them. Whoever put like a bunch of fours, please don't spam. All right, I don't think I've ever called on Aiden, so let's call on Aiden. Aiden, do you want to unmute and explain your answer?
So I saw if king take f4, if f take g4, like king take g4, and then something like e5, I don't see a clear way to break through, you know, this white.
Right. Yeah, I saw this also, right? And then I thought, okay, e4 is threatening. If king f3, king f5. Yeah, and it's actually not so clear. If you go rook d5, I can just move the rook away, maybe threatening e4. So I did not think it was winning. And I was correct, actually. It was not winning. Now, g takes f5. We're not really worried about this because f4, that's an easy win, right? The testing line is, of course, e5. And so Aiden, continue.
I said k4.
Yes, and ff3.
I mean, there's two moves like rook b2 and rook b1.
Yeah, I think rook b1 might also win, but I think rook b2 is easier, right? Just the pawn earlier, right? So that's the key idea, right? Like not to take here, right? But the point is you still have rook b2, right? I calculated up to this point and I figured, okay, this has to be winning because if king there, I could go rook n2. So there's rook c6, but now I can just start pushing the pawn, right? Because there's not much he can do. Yeah, because otherwise I'm just going to push the pawn across. If the rook goes up, then takes. And after this, rook f2, and white is winning, right? So whereas if I do this, I'm actually not winning, right? So I have to be very precise with my calculation here, right? I have to look at all the both variations very carefully. Thankfully, I did, and I was able to win like this. Okay. Once again, principle of two weaknesses I was able to use. This is another game I played with white. I got a very good Catalan in this game. C5, right? Like this is a very thematic idea. Try to block in this bishop. Queen e8, fb4. But that alone is not enough for a win. So at some point, I play h4, h5, the principle of two weaknesses. It makes a lot of sense. Now bishop goes back to g3. And yeah, now because I've induced h4, h5, then queen comes in. Yeah, bishop comes back, and then I'm threatening this. Here. Here. Yeah, now I broke through, right? And now in this position, yeah, the only reason I did not win this game was because of time pressure. I just completely lost the thread. Like, yeah, here million moves win. A4 wins. The easiest move is bishop d1. But yeah, this is not as good. And now for some reason, I don't know why, I just did this when I can simply keep the pin. So I kind of lost my mind in this game. And for some reason, I thought it's winning, which it's not, right? So you have to always be careful with the simplifications, right? It became wrong color bishop. But strategically, I won the game, just had a very bad conversion. Another game, which I did not win, that I could have, was against Justin Wang in one of my tournaments. I got a very good opening. He played like very strangely, like he allowed me to get all that space. A3, queen c7, queen c2, rook e8. And here white has to decide which plan to choose. What plan would you choose with white here? In which case should you not use the principle of two weaknesses? I mean, I think the principle of two weaknesses works well in most cases. But especially in positions where you can like make slow improvements and opponent doesn't have very much counterplay, right? Then especially, yeah. Like if you see that you dominate like one side of the board, but you need to try to create a new weakness, then yeah, principle of two weaknesses works very nicely. By the way, I don't think black's threatening before, right? Because then I just take loses a pawn. If we go knight e1, I'm gonna go e5. And I think that's good for black because then the bishop can come out and he will get counterplay. So knight e1 I didn't really consider so much. Before is what the move I played. But the problem with before is that everything simplifies here. Even though his bishop is horrible, but it's very hard for me to actually create a second weakness. Just everything got traded, and even though I tried, but it was just very hard. It's just like became a fortress. Because I'm only dominating on one side of the board. And even though I tried to do something on the king's side, position is just very fortressy. And basically everything got locked up and it became a draw. So the computer actually does not mind before, but this is one of those rare cases which I think the computer doesn't fully understand fortress, long-term fortress, like how to break through, right? It sees the space, but it doesn't fully understand long-term prospect. The right move would have been e4. Try to go e5, and then I can attack on the king's side with the queen still on the board. And then after takes, knight f6, queen here. This would be similar to my game with Rahul Petty. Okay, it's like bishop d2, h4, knight e5. It's just like a strategical domination. And even if somehow black gets b4 in, still the other bishop will be pretty bad, right? So this would have been not a fortress and basically just a huge advantage. But it is one of these cases where the engine will actually be a little bit misleading, right? It says before as it's a good move, but actually it does not criticize before. But practically speaking, it's just not that good, right? So you have to do something with e4, or maybe rook e1 and then e4. Maybe that's even more accurate. But at some point, you have to play on the king's side here, right? And not trade off all the rooks, right? Because this becomes, it's s+1, but actually, I would say it's closer to a draw than to a win, because at some point, engine does not manage to find clear plans. And then this next game is, this game I might have already shown, so I'll skip this one. I guess I can show you what principle of two weaknesses looks like in an endgame. So this is my game against, I'm white against Casa Corley. And it quickly fizzled into some, he knew the line pretty well, and it quickly fizzled into some opposite color bishops where I'm up a pawn, but objectively it's a draw. But, I was still trying to make some moves just to see what happens. Bishop f3, trying to go bishop e2. So it makes sense, right? Because king c5, bishop e2, he wants to defend like this, right? Not letting my king get into b6 like that. So I tried the plan with bishop d2, bishop b4, h4, and now I went here. So, bishop d3, bishop c3, and now king b4. So in this position, what would you do as black here? What's the most precise way of defending? It's black's move. So it can't be a4. So we have to understand what white's idea is. How is white trying to win here? All right, very good, Santosh. Very good. Very good, Michael. Very good, IZ. Very good, Sasha. Yeah, simply f5. Yeah, everyone's getting it now. Simply f5, because that way when they go c5, your pawn is not hanging anymore, right? And the king could go to d5, and this is simply going to be a very easy draw, like extremely easy. Like the best white can try is maybe king can come around back, but even there, right? Like it's never going to be. Oh, sorry, no, you go here, right? You can never really be winning here, because you have a situation where the bishop guards this pawn and the king guards this, right? So there's only one weakness, and the fact that you're down a pawn, right? That's kind of the weakness, and you can't really do much else in this situation. So that's the story with this game. But my opponent, I don't know why, I think he kind of fell asleep at the wheel a little bit, right? He thought once he found the setup with the bishop, he thought it's an easy win. So he just played this move. But now I played c5. Already it's not as easy. It's still a draw, but it's already not as easy, because suddenly king d5, there's bishop takes f6, right? And now you're down 2 pawns, and 2 pawns is already very tricky. Now, a lot of endgames, even down 2 pawns and clean opposite color bishops, are still a draw. And in fact, king d5 was still, drawing. But of course, who wants to just give up the pawn like that, right? Like, but that was, the easiest way to make a draw. Still, even still, like it's fortress. You played f5 now, and I played king a5. And now it's already got very tricky. And in this position, there's only one way you can make a draw in this position. Only one way. And this one is already quite narrow. And that's usually what happens. First, you miss something simple. Then you miss something more difficult. And then you already have a very difficult one, which very narrow path, which still might be a draw, but pretty hard to find. My opponent found the right idea, but the wrong move order. And he ended up spoiling the draw. And I'm very sure it's the only way to make a draw. So I'm only going to pull on you if you get like the whole thing correct, not just the first move, but like the whole answer. This one is actually kind of challenging, so let's see if anyone could solve it. Some of you gave the first move correct, but not the correct follow-up. Because we have to keep in mind that we might get Zugzwanged. So I see everyone's putting either king d5 or king d7. But so far, no one gave the second move correct. The second move is pretty hard. My opponent actually played neither king d5 or king d7. He played what should have been the correct second move, out of order. Anyway, I won't say too much. No, king f7, c6 should be losing, right? Aha, Santosh got it. Okay, Santosh, you've given a lot of good answers today. Finally, let's call on you. Looks like, I can't really hear you, Santosh, though. But your answer is correct. Yeah, so basically, the most tempting idea is to just go here, and then you want to stop c6 by going bishop b5. But the problem is that this is not a draw. Bishop there, bishop there, bishop there. Eventually, you're going to get Zugzwanged, right? Where the bishop, I go here. You're going to have to lose a pawn here somehow. So, for example, here, and this is going to be somehow. Fairly sure, the engine says it's almost a draw, but I think it's it loses. So what else is there? Well, there's also king d7. King d7, king here, bishop b5. But there's the same problem. I go here, and again, I'm going to zugzwang you, right? So you're going to lose the second pawn regardless, right? And this will be lost. Another answer that people give is king c8. But this is exactly the principle of two weaknesses that I'm talking about, right? Like white will go here, here, here. They're going to get the pawn to c7, go here, go here, go here. And eventually, you're going to lose that g pawn. And here, here, and then eventually you're getting f3 in, right? So position collapses. Y will win. So this does not hold, right? I can utilize the principle of two weaknesses. The passive defense does not work anymore because this pawn on the G file is very weak, right? Two weaknesses. So the only way to make a draw here is to play f4, double exclamation mark. And the difference is that if you go here, now the pawn on g6 is not weak anymore, and you cannot create a second fast pawn. And this is just going to be a fortress, right? You can't create a second weakness in this situation. And if you go here, bishop b4, here takes, king c6. And this position, with the pawns traded off, this is a draw, objectively. Now, maybe it could still be tricky, but at least according to Engine, it's basically after f4, it's a draw. What if you go bishop e4 instead of f5? What do you mean? Oh, you mean here bishop e4? Yeah, this position with these pawns still on the board, it might be lost. It's like close, but I think the engine goes up. So somehow, yeah, you have this pawn on g6, which at some point might become a problem, right? So playing f4 is the only like clear way to, as you guys could see with the engine. 0.45 is like definitely a draw, opposite color bishop, but 1.67 is well, because you need to trade. Well, you need to trade these pawns, right? You need to make sure this g6 pawn is protected, right? I think that's the main idea, because we saw some lines where you kind of lose because of that weak g6 pawn. Unfortunately for Casa, he found the right idea by playing f4 first, but he forgot that I can go here, stopping now the king from going to d7. So he must have had a mental block, right? And now he's losing. So it's like very bad luck for him. But okay, he kind of fell asleep a little bit early, made his life more difficult, and then yeah, he did not find the draw. And this is winning already. This is winning. My king penetrated. Now I win this pawn. It still looks like it might be a fortress, but it's not, thankfully for me. King didn't come around. I'm gonna get to the g6 pawn. And now, what's the way to win? Let's make sure we don't mess it up. Yeah, we need to make sure we... Yeah, the easiest is king g5, g4, right? No rush. Like black cannot do anything, right? Because king here just queen. The only thing you should not do is don't queen and allow this. That would be unfortunate. Spoiling all the good work. But this, and now g4. Getting rid of the pawn first, and now we go. Now I went king f6 to force the king back. And then next move, I'm queening and I'm taking here, and he resigned. So heartbreaker for him, but nonetheless, it gave us a new opportunity to learn about principle of two weaknesses in endgames. And by the way, principle of two weaknesses occurs in endgames and middle games, right? Very often it occurs when opponent doesn't have the counterplay, right? In these kind of situations, principle of two weaknesses to find the winning plan when opponent has what looks like a fortress would be the right idea. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's class. I just opened up the chat to everyone, and I'll see you guys later. I'll stay on, but I'll be on mute for I'll turn off my video.